when my future mother-in-law looked me up and down at my sister's rehearsal dinner and said, "Sweetheart, why don't you let the adults handle the bill? I know waitressing doesn't pay much." I had to bite my tongue so hard I tasted blood. What she didn't know was that she was sitting in my restaurant, the one I owned, along with 3 others across Austin. But let me back up. I'm Maya, I'm 29, and for the last 7 years, I've been building something I'm incredibly proud of. It started with a beat-up food truck I bought for $8,000 with my entire savings after dropping out of culinary school. My parents thought I was crazy. My older sister Vanessa thought I was throwing my life away. And honestly, some days I thought they were right. Those first 2 years were brutal. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning to prep, serve lunch crowds at office parks, then drive to the east side for the dinner rush. My hands were constantly burned, my back ached, and I lived off the food I couldn't sell. But people loved what I was making. My grandmother's recipes with a modern twist, comfort food that actually comforted you. By year 3, I had enough to lease a small space in a strip mall, nothing fancy. 28 seats, an open kitchen, mismatched chairs I'd found at estate sales. I named it Rosie's, after my grandmother. My family came to the opening. Mom cried. Dad looked worried about the money I'd borrowed. Vanessa brought her boyfriend at the time and spent the whole meal talking about her new job at a marketing firm, barely touching my food. Here's the thing nobody tells you about success. It doesn't happen all at once. It's 1,000 tiny victories that nobody sees. A 5-star review on Yelp, a food blogger who stumbles in and writes about you, a line out the door on a random Tuesday. Within a year, Rosie's was booked solid 6 weeks in advance. Within 2 years, I opened a 2nd location downtown, then a 3rd in the Domain. Each one bigger, nicer, more successful than the last, but I kept it quiet. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't brag at family dinners. Part of it was superstition, like if I talked about it too much, it would all disappear. But part of it was something else. I wanted to see if my family would be proud of me, not for what I'd built. Does that make sense? Every time we got together, they'd ask how the restaurant was doing. Always singular, like I still just had that one little place in the strip mall. I'd smile and say good and change the subject. My staff knew to be discreet. I operated under an LLC, and most employees at the newer locations had never even met me. I spent most of my time in the kitchens or in my office doing paperwork. When I did work the floor, I wore chef's whites or dressed down. I looked like any other cook, and I liked it that way. In the kitchen, nobody cared that I was someone's little sister or the dropout or the girl who was wasting her potential. I was just chef. Last month, my sister Vanessa got engaged to Connor. I was happy for her, genuinely. Connor seemed nice enough. A little bland, maybe. He worked in finance, talked a lot about golf, wore boat shoes unironically, but he made my sister smile, and that mattered. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I cried. We'd grown apart over the years. Different lives, different priorities. This felt like a bridge back to each other. The rehearsal dinner was the first time I'd meet Connor's family. Vanessa had mentioned his mother Patricia a few times, always with a nervous laugh. She's very particular, Vanessa would say. Or, she has strong opinions about things, which I now know is code for she's going to be a nightmare. Vanessa wanted to have the dinner somewhere special, somewhere that would impress Patricia. Connor's family is kind of fancy. She told me over coffee 3 weeks before the wedding. His mom already thinks I'm not sophisticated enough. I need this dinner to be perfect. I suggested my flagship restaurant, the one I'd opened downtown 2 years ago. 42 seats, custom marble bar, a wine list people flew in from other states to experience. I told Vanessa I could get her a reservation. She hugged me and said I was a lifesaver. What I didn't tell her was that I owned it. That I could get her a reservation because I could literally do whatever I wanted. That the executive chef, Marcus, had been my sous chef at the food truck. That every dish on that menu was something I'd either created or approved. I told myself I'd tell her after the dinner, after everything was perfect, after Patricia was impressed and Vanessa could relax. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I showed up early. I'd spent the afternoon in the kitchen, helping Marcus plate the special tasting menu I'd designed for Vanessa's group. Bone-in short rib with truffle polenta, seared scallops with corn puree and crispy pancetta, my grandmother's famous tres leches cake reimagined with brown butter and cardamom. I wanted everything to be flawless. I changed out of my chef's coat in my office and put on a simple black dress, Nothing too fancy. I didn't want to outshine my sister. As I walked into the dining room, I saw them already seated at the large table by the window. The best table in the house. Because of course it was. Vanessa jumped up and hugged me. Maya, you look beautiful. Come meet everyone. Connor's family was exactly what I expected. His father, Richard, wore a blazer with an actual pocket square. His mother, Patricia, had the kind of haircut that costs $400 to maintain. Connor's sister, Brittany, kept checking her phone. And Patricia's mother, Constance, looked at me like I'd tracked mud on her carpet. This is my sister, Maya, Vanessa said, her voice bright but anxious. Maya, this is Patricia, Richard, Brittany, and Connor's grandmother, Constance. I shook hands around the table. Patricia's handshake was limp. Constance didn't even bother standing. How lovely to finally meet Vanessa's little sister, Patricia said, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. Vanessa tells us you work in the restaurant industry? The way she said restaurant industry made it sound like I cleaned septic tanks. I do, I said simply, sliding into my seat. I love it. How nice, Constance said, her voice dripping with condescension. Service work is so important. Someone has to do it. I felt my jaw tighten. Vanessa shot me a pleading look. Just get through dinner, her eyes said. So I smiled and reached for my water glass. The waiter came by. Not someone I knew well, which was good. He took drink orders, and when he got to me, I ordered a glass of Pinot Noir from our reserve list. Patricia's eyebrows went up. That's $140 a glass, dear, she said, like I couldn't read. I know, I said. It's excellent. I've had it before. Her smile tightened. Well, we're all splitting the bill, so perhaps something more modest? Actually, Vanessa interjected quickly, Connor and I were going to cover tonight, as a thank you for everyone coming into town. Nonsense, Richard boomed. We'll split it properly. Everyone pays their share, keeps things fair. I wanted to laugh, if they only knew. Appetizers arrived. Marcus had outdone himself. The burrata was perfect. The heirloom tomatoes were at peak ripeness. The olive oil we'd sourced from a tiny farm in California. I watched everyone take their first bites. Even Constance looked pleased. This is quite good, Patricia admitted, like she was surprised. Much better than I expected from a place in Austin. Though, of course, it's no 11 Madison Park. Have you been to 11 Madison Park? I asked. 3 times, she said proudly. Daniel was a dear friend of Richard's father. We always get the chef's table. I hadn't been to 11 Madison Park, but I'd staged there for a week during a trip to New York. The head chef had offered me a position. I'd turned it down to come back to Austin and open my 3rd location. But I didn't say any of that. The conversation drifted to wedding plans, flowers, music, the guest list. Patricia had opinions about everything. The hydrangeas Vanessa wanted were pedestrian. The band was too contemporary. The invitation font was trying too hard. I watched my sister's face fall with each criticism. Connor sat there, nodding along, not defending her once, and I felt something hot and sharp twist in my chest. Entrees arrived. My short rib, the dish I was most proud of, the one that had been featured in Bon Appetit last year, the one that had judges at the James Beard Awards talking. I'd spent 6 months perfecting that sauce. Everyone went quiet as they ate. Even Constance. That's how you know food is good. When people stop talking. My God, Richard said finally. This is extraordinary. Patricia nodded, chewing thoughtfully. I'll admit, this is restaurant quality food. Vanessa, how did you find this place? Maya actually recommended it, Vanessa said, smiling at me. She got us the reservation. Did she now? Patricia said, looking at me with new interest. Do you know someone who works here? Here was my chance. I could tell them. But something about the way she asked it, like she was trying to figure out if I was sleeping with someone on staff, made me keep quiet. Something like that, I said. Well, you should ask them to introduce you to the owner, Patricia continued. Richard and I are always looking for investment opportunities. A restaurant this good in Austin could be very lucrative. I nearly choked on my wine. I'll pass that along, I managed. Dessert was being cleared when Patricia turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. So, Maya, Vanessa mentioned you dropped out of culinary school. What made you decide to do that? The table went quiet. Vanessa's face flushed. I needed to start working, I said simply. Of course, Patricia said. Student loans are such a burden. And waitressing. I imagine the tips help? Mom, Connor said weakly. Maybe we shouldn't. I'm just making conversation, dear, Patricia said. I think it's admirable that Maya is working hard. Service jobs are honest work. Nothing to be ashamed of. Constance leaned forward. When I was your age, I was already married to Connor's grandfather. He was a state senator. We had our first home in Highland Park, but everyone's path is different, I suppose. Some of us have to work our way up, Brittany added, not looking up from her phone. Not everyone can marry into it. I felt Vanessa's hand find mine under the table. She squeezed it apologetically. I squeezed back to tell her it was okay, even though it wasn't. Well, Patricia said, signaling for the check. This has been lovely. Though I do think we should discuss the bill. Maya, dear, why don't you let the adults handle this? I know waitressing doesn't pay much, and this meal was quite expensive. That's when something inside me snapped. I was about to say something. Something that would definitely ruin my sister's rehearsal dinner, when Marcus appeared at the table. My executive chef, the man who'd been with me since the food truck days. He was carrying a small plate with extra dessert. Chef, he said, addressing me directly. I thought you might want to try the new iteration of the tres leches. I adjusted the cardamom like you suggested. The table went silent. Every eye turned to me. Patricia's mouth opened slightly. Chef, Marcus, bless him, didn't miss a beat. Yes, ma'am. Maya is our owner and executive chef. She's been in the kitchen most of the evening, actually. Wanted to make sure everything was perfect for her sister's dinner. I watched the color drain from Patricia's face, then flood back in, a deep crimson that crept up her neck. Owner? Richard said, looking between Marcus and me. You own this restaurant? This one and 3 others in Austin, I said calmly, trying the dessert. Nice work on the cardamom, Marcus. That's perfect. Thank you, chef, he said, grinning. He knew exactly what he'd just done. And Miss Chen? The bill has been comped, of course. Family privilege. Wait, Constance said, her voice sharp. You own this restaurant? I do, I said. Started with a food truck 7 years ago. Worked my way up. Those service jobs really paid off. Vanessa was staring at me, mouth open. Maya? You never said. I know, I said softly. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you. I wanted tonight to be about you. Patricia looked like she might faint. The investment opportunity I mentioned. I'm not looking for investors, I said pleasantly. But thank you for the interest. Brittany had actually put her phone down. Wait, so that Bon Appetit feature about the short rib? That was you? That was me. And the James Beard nomination? That was also me. Richard cleared his throat. I believe I owe you an apology. Several people at this table do, I said, looking at Patricia. At Constance. At Brittany. But it's my sister's rehearsal dinner. So let's just enjoy the rest of the evening. But Patricia wasn't done. Why didn't you say something? Why let us believe you were just a waitress? I never said I was just a waitress, I corrected her. You assumed that. And you made it very clear what you thought about people in service jobs. About people who work their way up. About people who don't marry into wealth. Vanessa squeezed my hand again. This time it wasn't an apology. It was support. I think what my mother is trying to say, Connor started, but I cut him off. I know what your mother is trying to say, Connor. She's trying to say she's embarrassed. And she should be. Not because she didn't know who I was, but because of how she treated someone she thought was beneath her. The table was silent. Even the ambient noise of the restaurant seemed to fade. Finally, Constance spoke. You're absolutely right. Everyone turned to look at her. I was unforgivably rude, she continued, her voice steady. I made assumptions based on prejudice and snobbery. That's inexcusable. I apologize. Patricia looked at her mother in shock. Then, slowly, she turned to me. I apologize as well. I was condescending and unkind. Your success is remarkable, and I should have recognized that regardless of what you did for a living. It wasn't a perfect apology. It was still a little stiff, but it was something. Thank you, I said. Richard nodded. Truly impressive. What you've built. I meant what I said about the investment opportunity. Even if you don't need investors. I'd love to talk business sometime. I'll think about it, I said, non-committal. Brittany was scrolling through her phone. Oh my God. You have 14,000 followers on Instagram. How did I not know this? Because I don't post about being someone's sister, I said. I post about food. The tension at the table slowly dissolved. Marcus brought out another round of desserts. On the house, the conversation shifted to the wedding. to the menu I could help create if Vanessa wanted, to the possibility of hosting the reception at my largest location. But as everyone talked and laughed, Vanessa pulled me aside. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, and I could hear the hurt in her voice. "I wanted to," I said. "I almost did, so many times. But every time we got together, you'd talk about your job, your life, and then just ask how the restaurant was, like it was still just that little place. And I guess part of me wanted to see if you'd ask more, if you'd be interested in what I was actually doing." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I was a terrible sister. "No," I said firmly. "You were busy. We both were. We grew apart. It happens. I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you, and I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." We hugged, and I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight for years. When we returned to the table, Patricia was talking to Marcus about the wine list. Richard was asking about my sourcing practices. Even Constance was engaged, asking about my grandmother's recipes and whether I'd documented them. As the evening wound down, people started leaving. Patricia stopped by my chair. "I know I apologized already," she said quietly, "but I want you to know I meant it. I judged you unfairly. I do that sometimes. I'm working on it. We all have things to work on," I said, and I meant it. After everyone had left, it was just Vanessa, Connor, and me sitting at the table. The restaurant had closed around us. "Your family is a lot," I told Connor. "I know," he said. And for the first time that night, he looked actually present. I should have said something. I should have stood up for Vanessa. "For you." "Yeah," I said. "You should have." He nodded. "I will. From now on." Vanessa smiled at him, and I saw why she loved him. Beneath the boring exterior was someone who could learn, who could grow. "So," Vanessa said, looking around the restaurant, "this is really all yours?" "Really all mine," I confirmed. "It's beautiful." "Thank you. Can I see the kitchen?" I laughed and stood up. "Come on." I gave her the full tour. The kitchen where I still spent most of my time. The walk-in where I'd had a panic attack before opening night. The office where I'd cried happy tears when we got our first James Beard nomination. The small courtyard where Marcus and I would sometimes sit at 2 a.m, exhausted but exhilarated, planning the next dish, the next menu, the next location. "I can't believe you did all this," Vanessa said, running her hand along the marble prep station. "I can't believe I didn't know. I didn't make it easy to know," I admitted. I kept it quiet. Maybe too quiet. Why? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Because I needed to prove something to myself first, before I proved it to anyone else. I needed to know I could do it, that it wasn't a fluke or luck, that I actually built something real. And now I know, I said. Now I don't need anyone's validation. But it's nice to share it with people I love. Vanessa hugged me again, and I let myself sink into it. As we locked up and walked out into the warm Austin night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The secret was out. My family knew. Patricia and her family knew. And the world hadn't ended. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. The wedding was 3 weeks later, beautiful and perfect, even with Patricia's opinions. I catered it, obviously. And when Patricia told her friends about her new daughter-in-law's sister who owned half the hot restaurants in Austin, I just smiled, because she wasn't wrong, and I'd worked damn hard to get here. Looking back, I didn't need to prove anything to Patricia or Constance or anyone else. But sometimes people don't see you until you make them look. And when they finally did, I realized their opinion never mattered as much as I thought it did. I built this for me, for my grandmother, for every person who was ever underestimated or dismissed or told their dreams were too big. And that's more satisfying than any revenge could ever be.